Hello, and a very warm welcome back to my dear listeners. This is your host Sharmishta, taking you back to the house where our protagonist is living his days in fear. I couldn't wipe off those images of the dead bats that I had seen. No animal could have done that. I didn't want to visit that room either. Every day, I would go and stand outside the door, trying to listen. But there was no sound. Not even the breaths I had heard a few days ago. A few days later, on my way to the market, I was crossing a sal tree grove when I saw a few people huddled together talking in low voices. They looked frightened. Unable to contain my curiosity, I walked up to them. What's happened? Is something wrong? Are Dada, haven't you heard? What a terrible thing happened here yesterday. Last evening, some villagers of the nearby village were carrying a dead body to the crematorium after sunset. Suddenly, they see someone blocking their path. Someone who looked more like only a skeleton. My heart lurched. The man continued. You know, they said that what was strange about that skeleton was its height. Dada, uh, this, this much. Yes, this much. I saw the man bringing his arm near his waist. Small beads of perspiration were beginning to form on my forehead. A skeleton of waist height. The dwarf. I gulped and managed to ask. Then, Dada, people were obviously shocked. Its eyes were glittering in the dark. Suddenly, that skeleton leaped up and flying through the air, landed on the dead body. All the villagers shouted and dropped it. And then you know, Dada, that skeleton picked up the body and ran into this jungle. Then my voice was failing me. Everybody was sure it's a vampire and they all ran away. Then what? Today that body was discovered, mutilated, torn to pieces, arms, legs torn off, eyes gouged out, flesh all over the place. It was a ghastly sight. The police are here. They have cordoned off the area. Dada, why don't you go and see? Over there, just walk a bit into that path, there. I had absolutely no intention of seeing the mutilated body. I had seen those bats. I shook my head and walked away. What had I done? Instead of practicing the art of reviving a dead body, I had used the same on a skeleton. That too, a carnivorous one? And unleashed terror on innocent people. I shuddered. How many more lives would be lost now? The next morning, I was at the village grocery store, buying some rice and wheat flour when the shopkeeper said, Dada, have you heard about the happenings? I knew what he was trying to say, yet pretended I didn't understand. What happenings, Rajan Babu? The man's eyes rounded like two saucers. What? You don't know? Dada, the entire village is talking about it. People everywhere, they are scared. Oh, that. I heard some vampire is prowling around. Vampire? Dada, God knows what it is. Doesn't look like a vampire, neither a ghoul nor a ghost. One short skeleton with a huge head, eating birds, animals, even dead bodies. Soon it will start hunting us down. We are all very scared. I nodded. I really didn't know what to say. The man leaned towards me and lowering his voice said, Dada, My wife told me yesterday evening she saw that skeleton near your house. My house? Yes, it was roaming around near your house. Stay safe, Dada. Please be careful. I collected the groceries and walked away. 2 days later, the evening skies darkened all of a sudden. Black clouds spread menacingly across the skies and thunder began to roll loudly. I suddenly remembered I had put out my clothes to dry. I needed to get them back before the rains came down. I rushed out. The wind had become strong, and one of my shirts flew off the clothesline and settled on the branch of a mango tree a little distance away. It had begun to rain now. I ran to the tree and quickly managed to pull off the shirt and rushed back home. I had just closed the front door. The house was dark. Suddenly, I heard. Someone was coming down the stairs. I quickly hid myself under the staircase and peered into the darkness. And what I saw made my blood run cold. The skeleton was coming down the stairs, dragging one foot, its big head bobbing from side to side. It suddenly stopped, its head turning around a complete 360 degrees. Had it felt my presence? Oh God, I would surely die if it found I was close by. I waited, holding my breath, my heart thudding against my chest crazily. A few moments later, the skeleton descended the stairs and walked up to the closed door. And then, right in front of my eyes, it vanished through the door. I didn't wait for even a second. I bounded up the stairs, into my room and bolted the door. I was gasping for air. My clothes were damp with sweat already. So, the skeleton had begun to come up to the second floor now. My hands began to shake badly. I was trapped. I would have to stay in this house with the skeleton lurking around like this. I had nowhere to go. Later that night, as I tossed and turned in my bed, unable to sleep, I wondered why the skeleton was such a menace. Why was it eating flesh? I had never ever heard of a skeleton doing that. There had to be a reason, and this reason I had to find out. I had to find out the history of Daulat Khan. I decided immediately to revisit the trader who had sold me the skeleton. He would perhaps know something. He had mentioned to me about the dreaded dwarf Daulat Khan. I felt a sense of responsibility too, for those people who might be attacked if Daulat Khan was left loose like this. And then there was my own life. I didn't want to die a gory death. I had to stop Daulat Khan. I left home the following morning at the crack of dawn. By noontime, I was at the trader's place, narrating to him my tale of woe. His eyes widened as he listened. Finally, he said, "But this is so strange. I have had the skeleton with me for a very long time. It never rattled or moved around. This is very strange and very scary." I couldn't tell the trader what I had done with the skeleton. To him, I had posed as a medical student wanting to learn human structure. How could I tell him what I had done? I know Idris Mia, and that is why I need to find out the history of Daulat Khan. Why does he eat flesh? Why is he such a menace? Idris Mia shook his head. I know very little about him. The man I had purchased it from had told me that the skeleton belonged to the dwarf Daulat Khan, a terror who had murdered many people. Apparently, there's no count. But that was years and years ago. Maybe if you visited this man who sold me the skeleton, he could tell you more. Idris Mia, I request you, please give me the address. I will leave immediately. You can't do that. It's going to be evening soon, and that place is very far away. I will give you the address. Go tomorrow morning. I nodded, and taking the piece of paper he gave me, I thanked him and turned to leave. He called after me. Young sir, stay safe. May Allah be with you. What more terror will the skeleton unleash? Our hero here seems to have unlocked death itself. A skeleton who eats flesh, prowls around the village, climbs stairs. Our hero now must find out about Daulat Khan. Who was he? What was his history? Join me as I return soon with the next episode. We need to go with him to find out about Daulat Khan. Till then,